All right, folks, get ready. We're diving deep into muscle building. We're exploring Jeff Nippard's muscle ladder to figure out how to build muscle, but do it safely. No more, no pain, no gain. It's all about lasting results, figuring out how our bodies actually work.
Exactly. And it's interesting how Nippard really focuses on having the right mindset and finding a sustainable approach right away. He calls these the side rails of muscle building. It makes sense. If you don't have a strong foundation, how can you expect to build anything great on top of it?
That's true. So let's dig into this whole sustainability idea. Many people think of muscle building as these brutal workouts and pushing yourself to the limit. How does that fit with sustainability?
Well, it's about finding a balance, right? You want to push yourself enough to grow, but not so much that you get injured or burn out. Nippard actually talks about how when he first started, he made a lot of progress just by working hard even before he understood the science behind it. It just shows you can get amazing results just by being consistent, even if you don't know everything.
Effort is key, but it needs to be focused and smart.
Absolutely. And a big part of that is enjoying what you're doing. If you hate going to the gym, you won't stick with it. Try different things. Maybe work out with friends or listen to your favorite music. Make exercise a part of your life, not a chore.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So besides the mental aspect, are there any practical training tips to make things more sustainable?
Absolutely. Nippard says starting slow is important. A lot of beginners jump into intense workouts and end up getting hurt or overtraining. It's better to start with a manageable amount and let your body adapt gradually. It's like learning to walk before you can run a marathon.
I like that analogy. So what's the next step in this muscle building ladder?
Well, Nippard lays out this muscle ladder framework. It's a structured way to approach building muscle. He stresses starting with the basics. It's like building a house, you wouldn't start with the roof before you have a solid foundation.
Right, makes sense. So let's start with the base technique.
Technique is crucial. It lets us train harder and avoid getting injured. Nippard emphasizes proper form to make sure you're using the right muscles and getting the most out of every movement.
I get that. Bad form can lead to injuries and slow down your progress.
He even talks about breathing techniques and how important they are. Did you know that breathing properly can make your core stronger and help you lift heavier weights?
Wow, I didn't know that. Now, what about choosing the right exercises? Is there a list of best exercises?
Nippard says there's no one-size-fits-all answer. It's all about finding the exercises that are right for your goals and body type.
So no shortcuts, just smart choices tailored to you.
Exactly. He discusses the difference between compound and isolation exercises. Compound movements, like squats or deadlifts, use multiple muscle groups at once, which is a very efficient way to build strength and size. Isolation exercises, such as bicep curls, focus on a single muscle, so you can really refine and target specific areas.
So compound exercises for a strong base and isolation exercises for fine-tuning. Okay, once we've nailed the technique and picked our exercises, how hard should we actually push ourselves? Is it all about feeling that burn?
Well, effort is important, but it shouldn't be about just seeking pain. Nippard introduces these concepts called RPE and RIR to help figure out how close you are to your limit. RPE stands for Rating of Perceived Exertion. It's basically a scale from 1 to 10. 10 means you're going all out. RIR, which is reps in reserve, helps you estimate how many more reps you could do before you totally fail.
So it's not just about lifting heavy, it's about knowing how much effort is needed for muscle growth.
Exactly, and it's something you learn over time. He says listening to your body is crucial and finding that sweet spot where you're challenged but not risking injury. He suggests aiming for an RPE of 7 to 10 for most sets.
So we need consistent effort. How do we make sure we keep making progress? That's where progressive overload comes in, right?
You got it. This principle basically says that to keep growing, your muscles need to be challenged more than they're used to.
So does that mean lifting more weight, doing more reps, or just making the workout harder overall?
It can be that simple, but Nippard talks about different ways to do it. The most common way is by slowly increasing the weight you lift over time. You can also increase your reps or sets, or even change the speed of your lifts.
I've heard about muscle confusion, like constantly changing your routine to shock your muscles into growing. What about that?
That's actually a myth. Nippard explains that muscles adapt, they don't get confused. If you keep switching things up, it can prevent your muscles from adapting and growing properly.
So consistency and progressive overload beat constant change. But how much is enough? What's the right amount of training volume?
This is where it gets a bit more complex. Nippard emphasizes finding the right volume based on your training experience and how well you recover.
Right. Too much volume can lead to overtraining and burnout, and too little won't get you results. How do we find the balance?
He suggests different volume ranges based on how experienced you are. Beginners might do well with 10 to 15 sets per muscle group each week, while more advanced lifters might need 15 to 20 sets or even more.
This is getting pretty detailed. We've talked about effort, progressive overload, and volume. What's next on the muscle ladder?
We're moving on to splits and frequency, basically how you organize your workouts throughout the week.
So how you divide the training for different muscle groups and how often you hit the gym.
Precisely. And there are so many options to consider. It's amazing how many people think there's only one right way to train, but really the best split depends on your lifestyle, your goals, even how long you've been training.
So true. Let's break down some of those options. We've got body part splits, chest day, leg day, etc. Then there's full body workouts every time. What's the thinking behind these different approaches?
Body part splits, where you dedicate a whole workout to one muscle group, can be very appealing, especially when you're starting out. It helps you focus and really learn the proper technique. You build that mind-muscle connection.
So you're saying body part splits might be good to begin with, but maybe not the most effective in the long run.
You got it. The problem is you're only training each muscle group once a week. As you get stronger, you need more volume to keep those muscles growing. That's where full body routines come in.
So if you're lifting heavy and really pushing your muscles, you might need to train them more often to maximize growth. That's where full body workouts shine, right?
Exactly. Full body workouts hit all the major muscle groups in every session, so you're training them more frequently. This can lead to better overall development.
Wouldn't those workouts take forever? Training every muscle group in one session sounds exhausting.
They can, especially as you get stronger and need more sets and reps to challenge yourself. That's why full body routines might not be the best choice for advanced lifters who need a lot of volume.
Maybe there's a middle ground here.
There is. Nippard talks about upper-lower splits, where you divide your training into upper body days and lower body days. You get a higher frequency than body part splits, but still have enough time and energy to work each muscle group properly.
I can see the benefits there. You're training more frequently, but maintaining enough volume to really grow those muscles. But what if someone wants the best of both worlds? More frequent training and targeted focus. Is there an option for that?
Absolutely. Push-pull legs splits, or PPL, are really popular for a reason. They strike a nice balance. You group your workouts into push exercises, chest, shoulders, triceps, pull exercises, back and biceps, and leg exercises.
This structure really emphasizes those big compound movements, hitting, pushing, pulling, and squatting multiple times a week. Are there other ways to combine these training styles?
You're right, there are. Nippard even mentions hybrid splits, where you blend different approaches to create a program that perfectly suits your needs and preferences.
It sounds like the key takeaway here is that there's no one-size-fits-all solution. It's about understanding the pros and cons of each split, trying things out, and figuring out what helps you train consistently, recover properly, and enjoy the process.
Well said. Picking the right split is just one piece of the puzzle. We also need to think about how much rest we take between sets. It used to be all about short rest periods, keeping those muscles pumped and burning. Is that still the best strategy?
Right, like just long enough to catch your breath. Honestly, sometimes I need a little longer to recover before another heavy set. Does that hurt my gains?
Longer rest periods are actually gaining popularity now, and there's science to back it up. The idea is that if you allow yourself to fully recover between sets, you can maintain a higher intensity, leading to better performance and more muscle growth.
So taking a few extra minutes to rest could actually lead to better results in the long run. That's pretty counterintuitive. Are there ever times when shorter rest periods are better?
Sure. Short rest periods, say 30 to 60 seconds, can be helpful if you want to build endurance or focus on metabolic stress.
So if you're aiming for that burn and pushing your cardiovascular limits, shorter rest intervals have their place. But in general, prioritizing full recovery between heavy sets seems like a good rule of thumb for muscle building.
Nippard also talks about supersets, which are when you do 2 exercises back-to-back with little rest. It's a great way to make your workout more efficient and potentially increase results.
So supersets are a tool for efficiency and maybe squeezing out some extra gains. Is there a strategy to choosing exercises for supersets?
Nippard explains some effective strategies, like pairing exercises that work opposite muscle groups, agonist, antagonist supersets, or combining unrelated exercises, alternate peripheral supersets.
That's interesting. So bicep curls and tricep extensions would be an agonist-antagonist superset, and squats followed by shoulder presses would be alternate peripheral.
Got it. What about those intense techniques you see on social media? Drop sets, forced reps, all that. Do those actually contribute to muscle growth? They can, but you have to be careful. These intensity techniques can be useful for experienced lifters who are trying to break through a plateau. But if you're new to lifting, focusing on the fundamentals like technique, progressive overload, and consistency will get you much further in the long run.
So save those advanced techniques for later, once you have a good foundation and your progress starts to slow down.
Right. And even with all the rungs of the ladder we've climbed so far, there's one important element missing. How do we structure our workouts over weeks and months to make sure we keep making progress?
I sense we're about to reach the top of this muscle building ladder.
You got it. A final rung periodization. It sounds intimidating, but it's really just a way to plan your training over time to prevent plateaus, avoid burnout, and continuously move toward your goals.
I'm ready to hear all about periodization. Let's explore it in the final segment of our muscle building journey.
Periodization, it can seem really complicated, but basically it's about strategically changing things up in your training. Like the volume, the intensity, even what exercises you do. It helps keep the muscles growing and prevents you from hitting a plateau.
So instead of doing the same routine week after week, we're making changes over time on purpose.
Right. Nippard says a periodized plan usually has 3 levels: macrocycles, mesocycles, and microcycles.
Whoa, those sound pretty futuristic. Can you explain those a bit more?
Sure, the macrocycle is like the big picture plan, your long-term vision. Let's say you want to compete in a bodybuilding competition a year from now. That whole year-long training program leading up to the competition would be your macrocycle.
Got it, the roadmap. So then what are mesocycles?
Mesocycles are the different phases within that macrocycle. They usually last a few weeks or months. Each one has a specific focus. Maybe it's building strength or increasing muscle mass, or even taking some time to recover before the next intense training phase.
So you're breaking down that year-long plan into smaller chunks, each with its own goal.
Exactly. And then within each mesocycle, you have microcycles, which are your weekly training blocks.
Okay, so we have the big plan with macrocycles, the focus phases with mesocycles, and the weekly grind with microcycles. I see how this structured approach could help keep things interesting and keep you moving towards your goals. Can you give some examples of what periodization might look like in a real muscle building program?
One common method is linear periodization. You gradually increase the weight you're lifting over time while decreasing the reps. So for example, you might start with 3 sets of 12 reps, and over a few weeks work your way up to 3 sets of 8, then 3 sets of 6, increasing the weight each time.
So you're steadily building strength and muscle by making things a little harder each time. What happens when you hit a plateau? How do you keep those muscles growing when linear periodization isn't enough anymore?
Well, that's where things like nonlinear periodization or block periodization come in. These involve changing the volume and intensity more frequently within those microcycles. It keeps your body guessing and helps you keep progressing.
So if your progress stalls, maybe switching up your weekly training blocks, lifting heavier one day, then lighter with more reps another day that could help you break through.
Exactly. And don't forget about deload wicks. They're a key part of periodization. It's tempting to push hard all the time, but planning in some time with lighter training lets your body recover. It prevents burnout and sets you up for even better progress later on.
So a deload week is like a chance to recharge your batteries and come back stronger. Okay, I'm on board with that. Let's talk about nutrition now. We all know diet is super important for building muscle.
Absolutely. Nutrition is key. You could have the perfect training plan, but if your diet isn't right, you won't get the results you want.
So what are some basic nutrition principles for muscle growth?
Nippard actually dedicates a whole chapter to nutrition. He starts by talking about energy balance. To gain muscle, you need to eat more calories than you burn. It creates what we call a calorie surplus.
So the old saying, eat big to get big, still holds true. But are all calories created equal?
That's a common myth. Nippard explains that where those calories come from is important, especially protein. Protein is what your muscles are made of, so you need to eat enough to help them grow and repair.
How much protein should we be aiming for? Are protein shakes and chicken breasts the only way to get it?
Protein shakes and lean meats are great sources, but you can get protein from lots of foods: fish, eggs, beans, even some dairy products. He recommends about 8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight each day for most people looking to build muscle.
Protein is a priority. What about carbohydrates and fats, the other macronutrients?
Well, carbs give your body the energy it needs for those tough workouts, and fats are important for hormone production and keeping everything running smoothly.
So we need a good balance of all three. Protein for building, carbs for energy, and fats for keeping everything functioning well.
Right. He gives specific advice on how to figure out how much of each macronutrient you need based on your goals and how active you are.
Okay, last but not least, let's talk supplements. There's a lot of hype around supplements. Are they really necessary for building muscle?
Nippard actually has a really good evidence-based take on supplements. He ranks them based on scientific support and how practical they are. His top tier includes just three: protein powder, creatine, and caffeine.
So those are the ones with real research showing they work. What do they actually do?
Protein powder, as we've talked about, is just an easy way to get more protein in your diet. Creatine has been shown to increase strength and power, which helps you lift heavier. And caffeine, well, we all know it gives you energy and focus, especially before a workout.
Okay, those are the ones to consider. What about all the others?
He doesn't rule out all other supplements completely, but he stresses that most of them either haven't been proven to work or the benefits are pretty small compared to getting the basics right: good training, good nutrition, and enough recovery.
So supplements can be helpful additions, but they're not magic. Focus on the fundamentals first. Well, I think we've reached the peak of our muscle-building knowledge mountain. Any final thoughts before we head back down to the worlds of protein shakes and gym selfies?
You know, what really stuck with me from Nippard's book is his focus on sustainability. Finding a way to train that you can keep up over time is so important. Building muscle is a marathon, not a sprint, and enjoying the process is key to making those gains last.
I love that. So there you have it, listeners, our deep dive into Jeff Nippard's muscle ladder. We've covered a lot of ground, from the basics to more advanced techniques and nutrition strategies. Here's a quick 10-point recap of what we learned today. 1. Sustainability is king. Enjoyment and consistency trump short bursts of intense effort. 2. Technique is fundamental. Master proper form to train harder, smarter, and avoid injuries. 3. Exercise selection matters. There's no magic exercise, just the right tools for your unique body and goals. 4. Train with purpose. Understand RPE and RIR to find that sweet spot for muscle growth. 5. Embrace progressive overload. Keep challenging yourself to drive adaptation and growth. 6. Volume is key. Find the right amount for your experience level and recovery ability. 7. Play around with different splits and training frequency. Structure your workouts to fit your lifestyle and maximize those results. 8. Rest is strategic. Adequate rest, even longer periods, can be crucial for maximizing gains. 9. Use advanced techniques wisely. Intensity techniques can help you bust through plateaus, but they're not essential for beginners. And 10. Plan for the long haul with periodization. Cycle your training to make continuous progress and avoid burnout. Now, a question for you to think about. Based on everything we've discussed, what's one thing you could change in your training this week to level up your results?
Remember, building your best physique is a journey. Keep learning, keep experimenting, and most importantly, have fun along the way.
And until next time, happy lifting.